This episode is kind of like a weird unsolved mystery. In fact, it was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, the TV show.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, so me too. So we're going to be unlocking the Oakville Blobs today.
Oakville Blobs?
Yeah.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, have you seen the scary movie? It was like the Blob in like the 30s or 40s. It's like a black and white, or maybe right after, once it got into Technicolor.
I do remember hearing about the Blob and seeing little clips of it, but I've never watched the movie.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
But everything that I have researched about the Oakville Blob blobs always refer back to it, but it's not even anywhere near that's not correct as far as I know, because the Blob's like an 85-foot fucking crazy Godzilla blob.
In the movie, right?
In the whatever movie, yeah. This is not that. So, anyways, what are the Oakville Blobs, you're wondering?
Yeah, what are they?
Well, on August 7th, 1994, at around 3 a.m. in Oakville, Washington, it rained mysterious blobs of goo, half the size of a grain of rice.
Oh, it actually...
Teeny, tiny.
Came from the sky.
Yes, it rained down this, like, goo.
Weird.
Right? So, not only did it rain goo, it made people extremely sick.
Okay.
So, what the hell is it? Why did this happen? So many questions. Let me tell you about the town of Oakland.
Yeah.
A little bit, just for fun. The town was incorporated in 1905. In 2000, the population was 675 people.
Oh, wow.
That's like less than my elementary school.
Yeah.
And I lived in a small town in San Diego County.
That's not a lot of people at all.
That's like what lives in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally.
On your street.
Yeah, right. And in 2010, 684. So in 10 years, it went up 9 fucking people.
Wow, people were not really having a lot of sex.
Don't really care about moving there either, apparently. And 2020, it went all the way up to 715.
Oh,
Whoa!
Pandemic babies.
Oh, shit! I didn't even put that together. I love that. So this is such a small town that there are only 291 housing units.
Okay.
And I looked at Google Maps at this town, and I was able to count the streets.
Nice.
I shit you not. I was like, oh my God, there is nothing here. There are 20 of them with Highway 12 going straight on through.
Wait, what state is this?
Washington. I'm sorry, did I not say that? Oakville, Washington.
Washington State.
Washington State.
Okay.
They have the Highway 12 going through the middle of town. They have a Dollar General, Grey Goat Bar and Grill. Mind you, I got all of this off maps, like just zooming into the city. Oak Burger, Timbertown Coffee, Holy Lamb Organics. Don't forget about the antique store named Warts and All.
Ooh.
Marathon Gas, Oakville Methodist, and a bank, which is literally one brick room.
I'm laughing because Marathon Gas, because the town is so small, you probably have to go on a marathon to get to the next
else.
Well, to get to the next town.
Yeah.
You gotta like gas up, bring another one.
So, one end of town has the Oakville baseball field on the east end.
Okay.
On the west end, the furthest, so we're talking every street that Oakville has.
Yeah.
Oakville, sorry.
Yeah.
Is within the basketball or the baseball field, and then clear across the other town, or the other side of town is
across the train tracks.
Yeah, right. Is the rodeo grounds. Sorry, rodeo grounds. And do you know how much of a distance that is?
Probably the rodeo and the sporting like activities. It takes up like most of the town.
It does not actually.
Oh, it doesn't?
All the streets are in between both.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, like, if it's a small town, or it's really spread out, it sounds like. It's not spread out?
It's 0.8 miles apart to get from one to the end. You can literally walk the whole town in, like, 20 minutes.
Wow.
Like, you could walk the whole town, like, from the east end to the west end. You could walk that in, like, what, 8, 10, 12 minutes? But you could do the whole entire town, like, all 20 streets in, like, 15 or 20 minutes. Like, 30 if you're taking a stroll and taking in the view.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, like, small town USA?
I just have to say something right now, because I'm looking at you, and you look so pretty as a blonde, Jenna.
Yeah,
Your hair is like kind of blonde right now.
It's super blonde because the pink came out. So I'm thinking that too.
You think you should like go with like the blonde?
I think so too.
I really like it.
So for those listening on the podcast, if you want to see my hair, you'll have to go to the Facebook or the YouTube
or Instagram
but
or
the
TikTok.
better ones are YouTube or the Facebook. So anyways, off of my hair and back to Oakville. So when these Oakville blobs came down on this small town USA, there's like, what, 2 police officers? You got the sheriff and the deputy.
Yeah.
So you literally have Andy Griffith and Barney. Like, what the fuck? They don't know what the hell to do. They don't even know what to think of the blob. They're like, what the fuck? So it did take a couple weeks to even start to, like, send samples out and gain any media or national attention.
Probably once people started getting sick, then they cared.
No, that's not it either.
Oh.
We'll get into that. So this blob rain thing happened 6 times in 3 weeks. So it was not like a one-off quick thing, and it kept happening, which clearly means that someone, somewhere, was doing something for 3 weeks to cause this to happen roughly every 3 to 4 days.
But it's coming from the rain from our atmosphere.
But, so the question is who, where, and what? Why is this happening? Something has to be happening. There's a shift. Something for 3 weeks, it happened 6 times. So every 3 to 4 days, they would have this blob rain. What is happening every 3 to 4 days? Whether it is something that happened months ago, days ago, hours ago, something is happening that took a span of 3 weeks to do.
I'm thinking if they were doing some kind of experiment somewhere else and then it like went
over
like into the other town or something.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
I don't know.
We'll talk about that
what
too.
Experiments? I don't know.
Weather
weather control maybe, who knows.
Yeah, so that's a big deal right now, but
yeah,
no, I didn't think of weather control, but we'll get into some of the theories obviously. David Lacey was the town sheriff when the blob started. David tried to just like wipe off the rain with the windshield wipers, and it just like smeared like Jello.
Ew.
It was like Jello, like gelatin, right? And so David ended up going to the gas station to physically remove it off of his windshield with gloves.
Oh yeah.
I would presume Marathon Gas, the town gas station.
The only one they have.
I've walked the streets of that through Google Maps. So yeah, he wore the gloves for safety, but it was like still falling from the sky. So he's like, "What the fuck?"
Oh,
in his gloves.
as he was trying to clean it off.
Trying to get it off. But I would assume that he's not only at Marathon Gas, but he's also like over one of those. Just like the cover things.
It's like a
roof,
carport
over the gas stations. Yes. By the end of that day, several Oakville residents were violently ill.
Okay. Yeah.
They had difficulty breathing, they were dizzy, had blurred vision, nausea, just feeling fucking horrible. And then they turned into like flu-like symptoms that lasted 2 to 3 months. And this didn't just affect humans.
That's a long time.
It affected their animals too. When dogs and cats came into contact with this blob shit.
Was it only dogs and cats?
They
What about
died.
horses?
I don't know.
Goats
they were just like animals.
Small animals.
Yeah. They didn't say anything about horses or goats, but like a specific cat did die.
Yeah.
Of it. So they were, whenever animals would come near it, they would just like die. And it's probably because they're like eating it or like they walk through it and then they're like licking themselves, you know?
That makes sense because cats and dogs lick themselves.
Yeah, they're ingesting it.
Yeah.
A National Weather Service employee in the Washington area got a call from an unidentified man, which I thought was weird, saying that hot metallic particles from the sky had burned holes into his trampoline. which I don't know. It just sounds weird because it would be crazy if it did happen. But like, how would it not burn holes in other parts of town? But
only the trampoline.
Only the trampoline. Like, there's trampolines made of vinyl, spandex, and like things like that. It's in a bunch of other places too, and other things that you see, you just don't realize that you're seeing vinyl span. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's pretty thick too. So for it to be able to get through and dissolve the material, essentially.
Yeah, there'd be like the paint would be missing off walls. There'd be all these other things because like what makes up a trampoline is made up of a bunch of other shit.
Is metal capable of dissolving that kind of fabric?
Acid.
Maybe if it was acid.
But if it was acid, it would dissolve everything.
True.
So that's why I'm like, it's kind of hokey. I don't know.
Maybe he was trying to get a new trampoline.
I know that's what I was thinking. Insurance claim. I really almost didn't even add this, but I felt like it was still part of the story, so I should add it, but it's not something that I really want to. Anyways. So one woman, the first woman that got sick was Dottie Hearn. Her daughter, Sunny, found her on the floor, freezing cold, experiencing chills, sweaty, pale, and then, like, so she's, like, on the floor, like, dying, you know, when you're pale and you're like, am I gonna survive this? I'm cold, I'm shivering, I'm pale, I have no, like, blood flowing. There's no blood flow. There's a problem with the flow of blood.
That's scary.
Yeah. So she went to the hospital, and Dottie stayed there for 3 days.
They couldn't find out what was wrong with her?
Oh, they found out. It was an ear infection. Cute,
I hate when I go to the ER and you obviously have symptoms that have something like nothing to do with what they diagnosed you with. And you're like, no. And then they send you home and then you go back. I've been sent home. Then I go back. This happened to me twice where they sent me home. They're like, you're fine. It's blah, 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 some bullshit. And then I go back and I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like dying. And then they're like, oh, actually, you have a collapsed lung or some bullshit.
Okay. So here's a quick tangent. Remember whenever that I had my lung issue from the mold?
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened. I went into Scripps 3 different times in a probably, 5-day period. Mm-hmm. The first time they took me in and they just gave me a morphine shot, went home. And they were like, you're fine, like whatever. Yeah. They didn't even do an x-ray on my lungs. The second time, same thing, except they were kind of more mean. The third time, as I'm throwing up outside, because I cannot breathe, I can't, so if you can't breathe, that's what happens. You start throwing up violently. Yeah. Like these people. Yeah. They wanted to take me to the COVID unit. And I was like, no, I have like a 12-month-old baby at home. I cannot go in there and take it home with me because it's not COVID. I'm like, it's not COVID. I've already been here twice before. And then they looked at my chart and they're like, oh, you must be like a heroin addict and you just want morphine. If I just shoot you with that, will you be happy? Well, get this. So this was February of 2021. And that was when all of the San Diego was saying like, oh, all the hospitals, all the COVID units are like spilling out. There's no room. I went into that COVID unit because there was no other option. And there was me and one other person. There was at least 40 empty rooms.
Oh, I know. It's such bullshit.
It was so crazy, but I'm just like, dude, this is real life. I'm looking at this, and then there's people being like, oh my God, it's overflowing. I'm like, well, then go there because it's not overflowing. Well, then...
No, it wasn't. Even the hospital by my house was not overflowing. They said there was lines and da-da-da. No, and I went to that hospital.
No, there was lines outside.
No, there wasn't. Not for mine. There wasn't.
But there were lines outside to get thermometer checked, to get all this.
Oh, yeah.
Not real lines for the fucking hospital. Anyways.
No.
So,
they dramatized that big time.
So, by the, 6th day, I'm like, I'm going to go back to the hospital. And my husband was like, well, we're not going to go back there. So he's like, let's go to another, not Scripps, but Kaiser. And I was like, dude, that's the same shit. It's not going to work. Fuck that. I was like, if we go anywhere, we need to go to UCSD, which is a research center. And that's when they took...
Is that the La Jolla one?
Yeah.
I love the one in La Jolla.
They took one little thing, just not even a real x-ray, just listen and did all that. And they said she can't leave the bed. She's at 65% lung capacity. Do you know what that means? That means if I stand up, I pass out, which I was.
Yeah.
So I'm not allowed to leave the bed. And they were like, we're going to keep her. And they did a biopsy of my lungs. They kept me for over a week. Mm-hmm. Where Scripps was like, oh, it's cool.
She's fine.
It's fine. She just wants morphine.
She just wants morphine.
God, didn't you know I'm a morphine addict?
But let me tell you something. For me, morphine doesn't do fucking shit.
No,
when I'm in real pain, when I was at the hospital in fucking dying pain, it did nothing for me, but it gave me a migraine.
So I had this since December, and I didn't start going until February. But I had this weird feeling, and my lungs weren't working, and all this stuff. But I'm like, oh, it's good. I have kids. I can't be sick. I'm not allowed to that long. So
yeah, no, moms are not allowed to be sick.
So by the time I went, it was I developed fibromyalgia from the mold. It turned out to be that I was allergic to mold, and the mold that was in my house was shutting down my lungs.
This is an exclusive.
Yeah. And it was shutting down my lungs, so my lungs were literally dying. And they're like, oh, sorry. Scripps was like, sorry. But UCSD, figured it all out. And, yeah. It was crazy, though.
USD is the fucking
UCSD,
shit.
Yeah. UCSD, because it's a research, and they,
Well, yeah, because the thing is
but Scripps and all these other places, Scripps, Kaiser, whatever, wouldn't do shit. They won't do anything because they're fucking, they're bought and paid for by the insurance company.
Maybe La Jolla has more funding because one is La Jolla.
No, it's a research.
No, but it is La Jolla and it is research.
But it doesn't matter about the La Jolla thing, I promise, because that's what my mom went to.
Yeah, but no, the thing is
what I was gonna say
because they get more funding because the colleges go there, the doctors
the research,
go
R&D.
there.
Yeah, I get more funding because my company is R&D.
Yeah,
research and development. Yeah, so you get way more funding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so through that, because I wasn't getting the proper care that I needed in the beginning, I ended up with fibromyalgia. So the morphine did help whenever I couldn't have anything on my skin, because that's how bad everything got.
Yeah.
So, anyways. Back to the Oakville Blob. Sorry about that little tangent, but I was like, dude,
okay.
The hospitals are crazy. So, back to Dottie's ear infection.
Here.
That wasn't an ear infection.
No. Your hair looks fine. Don't fuck it up. I love your hair right now.
Thank you. So, Sunny, her daughter, Dottie's daughter, just moved to Oakville a year prior from Phoenix, where she worked for 6 years as the director of occupational safety and health, and instantly knew something was wrong.
Because Dottie wasn't no dummy.
No. And she got a sample of the goo and took it to the doctor to see if there was any way, in relation to Dottie's sickness.
Yeah.
And the lab tech was I'm so sorry, I'm now stuttering. The lab technician there said that the goo contained human white blood cells.
Whoa, wait a minute. This just took a whole
I know!
What?
I don't know. It's weird.
Human?
Yeah.
What?
And when the white blood cells are elevated, that's like cancer.
But it's cancer. In the air. It's in the goo.
In the goo. That's weird.
Yeah, human.
Why the fuck are there white blood cells encased in goo that are falling from the sky? The lab test?
I have no idea. I thought you were going to say it was pollution or it was iodine.
Pretty much
anything
other
else.
Than what we're
Not
doing.
iodine.
No. The lab tech had the same question. So he then sent out the sample to Washington State Department of Health. And Mike McDowell, a microbiologist, noticed that there were 2 species of bacteria. One that he found is also found in the human digestive tract. Mike also found 2 organisms, Pseudomonas fluorescens and Enterobacter cloacal.
Fluorescence.
The next day, Mike was going to test these samples further and get more clarification on what the fuck is going on with this.
Yeah.
But they were gone.
Some conspiracy shit right there. They're trying to cover it up.
Where'd they go?
Why are they trying to cover up these goo human white blood cells?
Yes.
With these organisms in them. Ew.
So Mike was like, what the fuck happened?
Gross.
And his boss was like, don't ask.
Don't ask, don't tell.
So here comes the first theory. What if It was simple human waste from an airplane. Right? Flying over, dumps out the human waste.
No, but when they do dump human waste. We know they do that. You know, it happens, right? But isn't it blue?
We're getting there.
It's not. It's not. And what color was this goo? What color was this blob?
It was clearish. It was clear because it looked like rain.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so it was clear.
So the Federal Aviation Association, the FAA, requires the waste to be dyed blue.
Yes.
Just like you were saying.
Yes.
Well, while I was researching this, Brad's friend was over, and I'm always like, because my husband's really smart with like certain shit, and so I'm like, hey, and I asked Brad, I'm like, hey, what did they put in toilet like for airplanes? Like what do they put in there to make it blue? And Brad goes, oh, I can't answer that, but my friend Matt can, who was sitting on the couch too, because Matt was over that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and this is his race car friend, but like whatever. And he's all, that's a Matt question. I'm like, no shit. Well, guess what, Matt? Hi, Matt. You're featured. I told you you would be.
Thank you, Matt.
So he knows all about antifreeze and stuff like that or something. I don't know why he would know this.
Okay.
But he said that they use ethylene glycol, which is a blue antifreeze for the toilets in RVs and planes.
That's very specific.
He was.
Nice.
And he was all fucked up because Brad and him like went out to the bars and everything, came home, and I'm still like being a crazy person, like typing away and he's all like, and he put his hand over his head to be like, it's ethylene, da da da. Like he like stood up to sat up to kind of just like act smart for like the whole 8 seconds it said that. Then he went back and he's all, it's used in RVs and planes. Like, it was really funny, but I believe him because why should I not? So he works with that apparently. So,
well, you know when people are like buzzed or drunk, they like tell the truth. So there you go.
Yeah, they're like all of a sudden, especially if they come out with like this random word, they have to be telling the truth because where else would you get that? Yeah. So maybe that's what it was. Like maybe it was just like turds, right? And that would make sense why the animals died. And people got so sick. Antifreeze is used to murder people. I watched Forensic Files.
Antifreeze is used to murder people?
There's one episode of it that I
thought that was chloroform.
No, that's to drug people and make them pass out, but they come back to life.
Oh, so you have to chloroform them like this, and then they pass out, and then you like have to stab them or kill them or whatever.
No. Well, yes, certain people, but the antifreeze you have to drink. And so this one Forensic File, the wife put it into the drink, of whatever, and she stirred it around, the antifreeze.
And it has no flavor?
I don't know. I've never drank antifreeze.
We do not advise drinking antifreeze.
No, it's not a Tide Pod challenge. I'm just saying. So
don't do that either.
So that's
and if you do, you're an idiot. Sorry, but not sorry.
That's all cool that the FAA requires the blue dye, right? Except people fucking suck and don't do their job. So maybe they just forgot to put the blue dye in it. Also, another fact, it's illegal to release the waste mid-flight. You have to do it down. You can't and which is.
I always thought they did it when they flew over the ocean.
Too. This is new information to me too. So, and they might be able to over the ocean, but not over.
Or they have to do it so many miles away from.
Yeah, something I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, it's a cool law. Whatever. But it's illegal to sell drugs. But look how many cracked out people are out there. So.
Especially in San Diego.
LA, anything.
California. Go to San Francisco.
So another problem I find with this theory is if it was human waste, then how or why did it happen 6 times over a 3-week period? What, did the poo stay up in the air hanging out and then being like, hey guys, we're going down now. Hey guys, next.
Yeah. Maybe it got
just
trapped in
No, it's just not correct. So luckily, Dottie, remember Dottie?
The only smart person in this town.
No, it wasn't Dottie. It was her daughter. Oh shit! Now I forgot her name. Because Dottie was the one that went to the hospital, and it was Sunny. Sorry, I had to make sure. I want to get the names right. I'm sorry. Luckily, Sunny had kept some more samples of the blob rain in her freezer. And when she didn't get the answers that she, like, obviously knew were, like, not right, she took it further and mailed her sample to Amtest Laboratories, which is a private research lab. Tim Davis, also a microbiologist, saw a eukaryotic cell. This type of cell is only found in living things. So whatever the blobs were, they had to be alive at some point.
They were alive?
So unless somebody has some fucking worms in their poo-poo, it couldn't have come from the plane.
So could it be a parasite?
Let's figure this out.
I don't know. I'm so confused.
Let's do this together.
Like, what it is.
Stop guessing. No,
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
Keep guessing if you want. Next theory, what if they're jellyfish?
No. That doesn't even make sense.
Okay, hear me out.
What?
The Air Force was
we
doing...
went from poo-poo to jellyfish.
I'm telling you, it says it here. Hear me out.
Okay.
Because I knew you were going to say that. So I literally have it typed out. Okay, hear me out. The Air Force was doing a lot of bomb testing in a part of the ocean. So the theory is that the bombs went off in the ocean and blew up a school of jellyfish. Like, think Finding Nemo. Remember when Marlin and Dory are playing, like, they go over all these jellyfish?
Oh, yeah, the jellyfish. Yeah,
but because Marlin can deal with the jellyfish things because he lives in a sea anemone.
Yeah.
Dory
That's what I thought
can't.
of. Yeah.
Dory can't, and then they're bouncing through, and then Dory gets stung by one, and she's almost dying. She has the cuts on her, blah, blah, blah. So, obviously, jellyfish, like, go in schools like that.
Mm-hmm. They do. But this is my problem with the jellyfish theory. How do you account for the human white blood cells?
There's a problem, too. Also, here's another problem. If this was the case, then how did they... Sorry. I'm like, how
She's so dramatic.
How did they... Because you caught me off ground. You caught me off guard with a question. It's happening to me now. So,
I need your questions in advance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if this was the case, then the thought is that the bomb blew these poor jellyfish into, like, smithereens.
That was a good one.
And they went up into the sky and came back down in those rice-sized pieces all over near Oakville.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Stop
I believe you.
It's a real conspiracy. It's a real conspiracy that people are going with to this day. I wouldn't fuck with you guys. I'm so serious. There are several problems with this, as Heather has already mentioned.
It's just so bizarre. We're talking about blobs with human DNA, well, not
I
DNA,
honestly didn't even
human
think of that.
white blood cells. It's just so creepy.
I didn't even think of that. What I thought of is that Oakville is too far from the bomb testing area for it to only affect Oakville.
Okay.
Also, it only affected Oakville. It should have affected the other towns.
Why Oakville?
Because Oakville's like 50 miles, 30 to 50 miles from the closest, like, area of oceany shit. And there's no bad smell. Can you imagine raining jellyfish particles?
Oh, it
drying
would stink.
out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fishy would be like fishy and, like, I don't know what. Yeah.
So,
it would
and
be
then
like,
also, you're gonna tell me that it stayed up in the sky for weeks at a time and then decided to come down?
And if it was
just
human,
like with the poo.
If it was human waste, it would also smell horrible, I would assume.
So unless the Air Force was doing several bombing, which answers the original question of who, when,
why,
like,
what are they doing?
Like what is it, where, like what, like everything. It answers everything because they could have done bombing every couple days.
Yeah, they do.
For 3 weeks at a time.
They have their test schedule or whatever.
And that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But don't you think when the first explosion happened, the other jellyfish would be like, oh no, gotta go. Bye. Although they don't really have brains. So let me come.
They have to have some kind of brain.
They don't. They have no brain. But also the Air Force says that they could not have killed that many jellyfish. They came out with a statement and said...
Wait, the Air Force came out with a statement that we didn't kill that many jellyfish?
Yeah, because when they dropped
No jellyfish were harmed in the making of this episode.
No, they didn't say no.
Oh.
They just said not that many.
No, I said no jellyfish were harmed in the making of this
episode. But whatever they're saying, so they couldn't have killed that many jellyfish because they have environmentalists that give the okay where and when to drop these practice bombs. Mm-hmm. So they need to be like, hey, I want to drop a bomb here on this day. And then they go there, the environmentalists go like scuba diving down. And they're like,
they do all that?
Well, maybe not to that extent.
No,
but
they have to
area.
Do some kind of...
Yeah, they do something. They sweep the area, make sure there's no civilians.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
Make sure nothing is good, and then they have an all clear. Like, they can't just drop bombs all willy-nilly.
You said make sure nothing is good.
Make sure they have an all clear.
I know.
What did I say?
Make sure nothing is good.
Oh, whatever.
I knew what you meant.
Anyways, I hope they did. Make sure that they have an all good and nothing is bad. Whatever. So there's another theory that was blaming the Air Force as well. Not just the jellyfish thing, because you know what? Poo-poo that shit.
Yeah, that's just one.
Yeah.
Or one of them.
That's stupid. So apparently some people back then believed that the Air Force purposely dropped the blobs on Oakville.
But why Oakville?
There are several Air Force bases around Oakville. And lots of Oakville residents claim they saw slow-moving military crafts almost daily before and during the blob rain. Many residents during that time believed their town was the site for many military experiments. Not just in regards to the blob rain, but other things too. They believed that the blob rain was to test some sort of biological warfare weapon.
Ooh, I like that idea.
What makes this theory even more believable is what Mike McDowell said and went on record saying. Remember, Mike McDowell was the first microbiologist that had the sample come up missing? Mm-hmm. He said, quote, "The material, and I have no proof one way or another, was manufactured by someone for some purpose and for some reason. Oakville was chosen as the test site." Wow. And this was published on KXRO.com article 20 years later, the Oakville Blob, published on August 7th, 2014. Of course, the Air Force completely denies this shit. But it would make sense because the town is so small that it would take a while to get national cover, if ever. Yeah. Which it did. It took weeks to get national cover.
And it makes
coverage.
It makes sense to me that they would use that town as a test site. The fact that there's so few residents there. Yeah, and it's a small, controlled environment. Yeah.
And there's so many. There is like 4 or 5 Army, Air Force, military bases just surrounding this little town. Yeah. Like, with 4 or 5 within, like, 30, 40 miles.
But then that makes me think that, like, a lot of people that live in Oakville, they probably are in the service themselves and they work there. So they would have some knowledge of it. No one had any knowledge of this. Because usually people who live close to bases maybe don't live on the base, but, like, they're associated, they're employed.
Like, here, like, in San Diego, we have a lot of, military personnel as civilians or being actual soldiers, but they live off base. But all of the bases are located near Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, Washington isn't as big as California. Like, I know you used to live there, but
I did live there.
I know it's very hard to
I lived in West Seattle though, so it was like the farthest point of the West Coast.
Were you north too?
No,
because this is only 50 miles inland from southern Washington. Almost to where I had to be like, is this Oregon or Washington? So you might have been quite close.
I lived in West Seattle, so it was I don't know exactly how many miles it would be away from this location.
Well,
I couldn't say, but I lived in West Seattle. I lived very close to Lincoln Park, if anybody knows where Lincoln Park is.
Well, so nowadays they could never get away with any Air Force military craft slowly moving in the air, or like any testing, or like anything like to be like covert type shit. Because if they did, they would, like, people would capture it on their cell phones. Mm-hmm. And with social media, it would have, like, blown the fuck up, right?
Oh, for sure.
And then my other thing is, what if it was aliens? So maybe there was some sort of intergalactic fight that took place around Earth, and alien particles landed on Oakville.
No, not alien particles. You know how they are allowed?
Oh,
they're allowed to abduct so many people per year. Supposedly, we haven't done an episode on that,
no,
but there's supposedly
really?
some agreement with our government that they can take X amount of people in exchange for a technology. And maybe they were like, "Oh, we're done with these people," and they just
but nobody died.
Them back.
Only animals died.
No, I'm talking about the blobs. Were the dead people that they took?
Oh no!
Ground up, and they just gave them back.
Yeah, oh my god.
Here's your people.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't read the whole alien thing anywhere. That was just my fun theory, just to kind of tie it in.
My brain is ground up people from aliens.
Perfect. I need a new co-host before she kills me and grounds me up. So 12 days after the first blob rain, the Rutland Daily Herald posted an article on Friday morning, August 19th, 1994. And I do have the newspaper clipping, and we'll post. And, oh my God, side note, this is so much fun. I found this old newspaper, and I started to look through it because it was a full newspaper.
Oh, cool.
And around this time, there was an article about O.J. going through his murder trial.
Simpson?
Yeah. Rodney King's murderer was getting his justice.
Oh.
And those,
the Rodney King, that was during the whole riots.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was 2 years later, his murderer was getting justice. Wow. It was just a blast from the past. They had the little kids section.
So this is the early 90s.
94 is when this happened.
Because 92 was the riot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. His murderer was, being sentenced.
Yeah. It would be. Yeah, you would have a couple of years of, everything.
Yep. And it was so weird, especially because this was, what was happening 30 years ago. They were talking about Reagan leaving office, Clinton going into office, and the difference. And Clinton.
That was 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my
Reagan
God, I'm old.
left office in 93, I believe, and Clinton, or 92 and 93 was when they switched over.
I don't remember that.
And 92 was when the election happened for Reagan and Clinton.
Wow.
Yeah. Or how they switched. I don't know if Reagan, I don't know if he already did his 2 years or what, but whatever. Anyways, the article was named Blobs from Space. And the subtitle was, "They're strange, they're gooey, they're falling from the sky." I'm kind of thinking that was also the time of the Addams Family movie that came out.
They're creepy and they're kooky.
Yeah.
A
lot of my information did come from this newspaper article, and then of course the Unsolved Mysteries season 9 episode 6. So what was this jelly substance?
Yeah,
blob?
we haven't said. What is it?
I don't know. It's never.
Shut up!
It has never happened again, and it still remains a mystery today. But they did inspire this drink, and it's called the jellyfish.
I literally hate you right now.
Well, the jellyfish is a vodka, gelatin, and juice drink that they name because of these quote unquote. That's the official statement is that it's jellyfish.
So are you telling me this was all just a big commercial for this drink?
Maybe. So I know, because I'm let's go get it. What do you think? What do you think it was? I definitely think that it was some sort of military experiment. I could picture it. They go to this town that's hardly any population, like you said. They knew it would confuse the hell out of them, and their reaction time wouldn't be as quick as a larger town like Seattle. Especially back then, it was snail mail. And they were still using newspapers and fax machines. I mean, this was the newspaper article that I read was the morning edition of the Friday, not the afternoon or the night. Because they used to have newspapers.
It's what's happening in real time, but this is the morning time.
That's how newspapers used to be.
So weird.
And then they had fax machines to get messages across the country, and that was new development. So it just makes sense that this is the perfect location for this.
I think that it probably was also a military exercise or experiment, but the other side of me really wants to believe the sci-fi part wants me to believe it had something to do with alien
the
blobs
aliens,
coming
I
from.
have to tell you that the alien blobs were 100% my theory. So
That's okay. I like it.
That's not anything that I read somewhere. So there's no like factual anything where other theories have some sort of factual backing or some sort of whatever. But the alien theory is 100% me. So I just like a side thought, like what if?
Okay, so I know what happened then.
Okay, perfect. Let's hear it.
So what happened was, this is the U.S., it's the Air Force, right?
Yep, that's it.
And the Air Force has been known to do studies for weather modification, and I believe that they were trying to put something in the atmosphere. Somehow it had a biological human white blood cell, which is really strange. Yeah. Really strange. But maybe... But
it also means that it was alive at one point, too.
Yeah, so maybe some kind of bacteria was in it or something, and maybe they were trying to use that bacteria or whatever. Yeah, I would assume it would be some kind of bacteria that had the white blood cells in it, because white blood cells would be trying to kill the bacteria, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I believe
I get what you're saying.
Yes,
keep going.
So I believe that they put something in the atmosphere that included that bacteria that they were trying to manipulate something at the time, possibly more precipitation to fight climate control, because that's huge right now.
Yeah, but this happened in 94, and that is when climate control started, though, the reuse, reduce, recycle thing.
But also, climate control has actually been studying since 1947, and that goes back to aliens and Roswell.
Ooh.
There you go.
All right. And end scene. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's our episode for today. And thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and email us what you think happened on that crazy day in August of 1994 in Oakville, Washington.
If you were there, what if they were there?
Yeah, especially if you were there.
Do you live in Oakville, Washington? Please tell us more.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for listening. Email us conspiraciesunlocked@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.